I liked Ryan for 12 years. I watched him change girlfriends one after another, like seasons passing. When everyone thought I could be the one to make that philandering man finally settle down, he blocked me, for another girl. More than a month later, he was kneeling on one knee surrounded by a sea of roses, asking if I could give him another chance. I smiled, reached into my bag, and handed him a big red wedding invitation. "I'm getting married next week," I said. "I hope you can come." Chapter 1. Ryan sent a message to his childhood friend group. *Gather at the old place tonight. There's something to announce. Jason, who had always been closest to him, joked. "Oh, so formal? Is the philandering man finally going to settle down?" That kind of joke wasn't new. Before this, Ryan would laugh it off, tell Jason to get lost, and brush it aside. But this time he only replied with a quiet, "Yeah." It was just one word, but it landed like a boulder in still water, sending ripples through the group chat. The conversation exploded. "Am I seeing this right? The scumbag is serious." Someone wrote, "Our Vivian has finally seen the moon after waiting for the clouds to clear. Let me infer. Ryan hasn't been in a relationship recently, and he doesn't have any ambiguous connections. So the girl must be Vivian. I told you this guy was different with her," another chimed in. "He never took girls out before. Vivian was always special." It wasn't a secret that I liked Ryan. Just like his exceptions for me were obvious and known to everyone. He didn't say anything, as if accepting all the teasing without objection. Yes, over the years, even though he changed girlfriends quickly, I was always his only boundary. Everyone assumed my waiting had finally paid off. Chapter 2. He arrived last to the party, and behind him trailed a timid little girl. Her white, delicate hands clutched the corner of his shirt tightly. Her big eyes scanned the room with innocent curiosity, like a deer stepping cautiously into unfamiliar territory. She reminded me of myself, when I first came back to the Lin family 12 years ago. Those still laughing suddenly fell silent, their laughter cut off like someone pressed mute. They stared blankly as Ryan pulled someone from behind him and held her close. "Let me introduce you," he said. "My girlfriend, Lily." His eyes never left her face. There was an indescribable tenderness in his gaze, a softness between his brows. Lily shrank slightly into his arms, clearly feeling the awkward tension in the room. Jason was the first to react, laughing loudly. "You're hiding it well. When did you two get together?" As he spoke, he kept glancing at me. Even though he played it off well, I could see the worry in his eyes. After knowing each other for so many years, we both understood what this meant. Ryan had never formally introduced us to any of his girlfriends before. He rubbed Lily's hair affectionately and smiled. "We've been together for more than 2 months. Lily's shy. Don't scare her." 12 years ago, those same words were used for me. "Vivian's shy. Don't scare her." Back then, I'd just been brought back to the Lin family, a prestigious household in the imperial city, from a small village in the south. I was mocked for my accent, teased for not fitting in. And it was Ryan who took my hand and led me into their circle. I was 14 that year. The boy who smiled brightly, who helped me through confusion and panic, became my light. Chapter 3. Maybe they were closer to Ryan emotionally, but over the years, whether they liked it or not, I was the only girl among them. I was the one they believed might one day bloom into something real with him. For fear that I might feel bad, everyone tried to keep their reactions neutral. Still, the atmosphere felt heavy. Silence stretched for a moment before Lily bit her lip, eyes slightly red. She tugged at Ryan's arm helplessly. "Ryan, am I not welcome here?" I frowned slightly when I heard her call him that. It made me uncomfortable. Years ago, when we were teenagers, he used to hide behind me and attack playfully, snatching things from my hands or pulling the string holding up my high ponytail. He wouldn't return anything until I called him brother with a red face, grudgingly giving in. At that time, he was still immature, easily disgusted by other girls' flirtations. As he turned to comfort Lily, a glass shattered in the corner. It was Alex, always the one with a tense relationship with me, who slammed it down. His handsome face was stern. "Ryan, what the hell are you thinking about Vivian?" Ryan's expression darkened. He looked around, then locked eyes with me. Finally, he opened his mouth and said, "I don't know if you've misunderstood something. I've always thought of Vivian as a sister." Chapter 4. What a perfect line. I've always thought of Vivian as a sister. Do you remember, Ryan, that last New Year's gathering? Jason bought firecrackers and asked you to go set them off. You sat lazily beside me and smiled, saying, "No, I want to stay with our Vivian." Someone nearby started teasing. "When did Vivian become yours?" You threw a tangerine and laughed. "She's my child bride." And now, just half a year later, you can look me straight in the eye and say I'm your sister? I placed my hand over my heart, pressing gently. Hurt, yes, but not as much as I expected. Surprisingly, there was also a sense of relief. Like I'd finally received the reply I'd waited 12 years for. It's like when I was 14, submitting a novel I thought was brilliant to my favorite magazine. I waited years for a response. One day, 12 years later, they finally replied. "Sorry, we won't publish it." I didn't cry. I just thought calmly, "Oh, okay. So it wasn't good enough." My passion had faded long ago during the wait. The same goes for my feelings for you. Not that I don't love you anymore. I just stopped expecting anything. So your words don't shake me as much as they once would have. Chapter 5. Alex wanted to speak up again for me, but I stopped him. He gritted his teeth, shot me a furious glance, muttered, "Useless," and slammed the door on his way out. It wasn't appropriate for me to stay any longer, so I grabbed my bag and followed him. As soon as I touched the doorknob, Ryan called out, "Vivian, come back." I turned and smiled. "Brother, you guys keep playing. I'll go check on Alex." That was the first time in all these years I called him brother so cheerfully. But it was clear he wasn't happy. He stood frozen, then repeated, "Come back," his voice low and gloomy. This time I didn't obey. Pushing the door open, I walked out, hearing the sound of another wine glass shattering behind me. The door closed, sealing away the noise. Chapter 6. Going after Alex was just an excuse to leave. Although he helped me, I still remembered clearly what he did in school. Hitting me with a ball in gym class, secretly cutting my braids with scissors in art class, hiding my textbooks, putting caterpillars in my desk. Gratitude is one thing. I'll thank you properly, but I won't rush into being friends. I wanted to go home, but as soon as I stepped outside, I saw Alex leaning against the wall, smoking. When he saw me, he stubbed out the cigarette and tossed it into the trash. I took Jason's car. "Are you heading back? Can I get a ride?" I sighed but didn't refuse. After all, after playing together for 12 years, this was one of the few times we were alone together. He sat silently for a while before finally speaking. "Lily is very similar to you back then." Pause. "So what? Even if she looks like me, she can't be me. And I can't be her." I didn't want to continue the topic, so I simply opened the car door and drove off, ignoring his angry shouting behind me. Chapter 7. Just after I parked the car, Alex messaged me to check WeChat. I clicked in and saw red envelopes flying across the screen. Ryan had added Lily to the group, and everyone was sending her greetings. I wrapped a red envelope too, and just after sending it, I was kicked out of the group by Ryan. Seconds later, a private message came through. "Sorry, Vivian. Your presence makes Lily uncomfortable. Let's not contact each other for now." I clenched my lips tightly, fingers trembling. After a pause, I still typed, "Okay." But as soon as the message was sent, I saw the red exclamation mark. Ryan had deleted me. From green years to scorching youth, 12 years of knowing and accompanying each other. And it all ended because of a love that lasted just over 2 months. I stared at that mark until my eyes burned, but no tears came. Ryan used to pat my head and smile. "Vivian, besides my parents, no one in this world is more important to me than you." Chapter 8. I liked Ryan, but I was never obsessed with him. never crossed the line. I never said or did anything ambiguous. Every time he had a girlfriend, I took the initiative to keep my distance, afraid my feelings would become a burden. Yet every time I did, he seemed unhappy. His first love was with my college roommate, a girl who knew how I felt about him. Later they appeared in front of me hand in hand. She smiled brightly, seemingly forgetting all the girlish secrets I had shared with her. "Vivian, thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to chase Ryan." The wind was strong that day. I stood on the tree-lined path outside the library, feeling like a fool. That's when I realized she had approached me from the start just to get close to him. I distanced myself from both of them. Their love only lasted 3 days. She cried in the dormitory, eyes swollen. "Ryan dumped me. Are you satisfied now?" I was confused. I hadn't done anything. But politely I answered, "Yes, I'm satisfied." Chapter 9. That night Ryan dragged me out for dinner. With a playful smile he teased, "Little ancestor, you haven't paid much attention to me for 3 days. Don't be angry, okay?" I explained seriously. "I'm not angry. You're in a relationship. We should keep a proper distance. It's better for everyone." "But I agreed to try," he said, "because I saw how close you were with her. What Vivian likes, I like. What Vivian doesn't like, I don't like either." Confident as ever. Later, when he fell for someone else, he avoided all girls connected to me. He wouldn't even bring them around publicly. But the upper-class circle in Beijing isn't that big. Eventually, news of his affairs reached me through others. At annual gatherings, people would tease him. "Ryan has so many girlfriends. When will he bring one to meet us?" He peeled shrimp and dropped them into my bowl, answering casually, "Not to that extent yet." People begged, scolded, warned me to stay away from Ryan. Over time I understood. Even if I did nothing, just existing was considered a sin. So he chose Lily over me. I respected his decision. But why kick me out? There were others in the group. Friends who had been with me for 12 years. Phone calls rang repeatedly. I hung up and replied one by one. Asterisk, I'm fine. Don't worry. Asterisk, when you're on the edge of breaking, even well-meaning care feels unbearable. I was afraid I'd finally let the tears fall. Chapter 10. More than an hour later, Jason showed up at my house, his face bruised. He slumped onto the sofa, taking the ice pack I offered and pressing it against his swollen cheek. "What happened?" "Yes," he sighed. "Ryan caused a public fight. I went to break it up and got hit a few times." "Where is he now?" He moved the ice pack, wincing from the pain. "Probably at the hospital." I pursed my lips, saying nothing. A few minutes later, Jason asked carefully, "Vivian, Ryan was just confused for a moment. We all see how much Lily looks like you." The sentence he didn't finish was, "like you in the past." I frowned slightly, not answering directly. "Jason, I want to go back to see my grandma." Chapter 11. When my mother was pregnant with me, my father's business hit a crisis. Almost bankrupt. A fortune teller was consulted, and apparently, the problem lay in my mother's pregnancy. The master said I was born under a curse, destined to ruin my father's fortune. But by then my mother was 9 months along. Too late to do anything. So I was sent to live with my grandmother in the south immediately after birth. She named me Vivian, saying I was her only baby. But when I was 14 she passed away. And I was no longer anyone's baby. I used to think Ryan was lucky. Even if I wasn't a baby anymore, I'd always be his first choice. Sounded nice. But reality slapped me hard. It was the rainy season. Misty Nanjing was covered in a veil of drizzle. Holding a flower-patterned umbrella, I stepped onto the familiar bluestone road. At the end stood an old 3-story building, the home where I spent my first 14 years. My mother often said my grandmother was stubborn. Even though her daughter married into wealth, Grandma stayed in the countryside, guarding her old house. But it was that stubbornness that gave me the happiest childhood. Rain wasn't heavy. Street vendors rode slowly on tricycles, calling out their goods through loudspeakers. A woman came out of the small Western-style building next to Grandma's with an umbrella. Seeing me, she called in surprise. "Vivian, why are you back? It's not even the Memorial Day yet." My eyes were already red. I forced a smile. "I missed home. Came back for a few days." She glanced at my suitcase and pity flickered in her eyes. "Kid, why come back alone? Grandma's house has been empty for years. Rained heavily these past few days. It must be damp. Stay at our house instead. Your brother Ethan's hardly ever home. You can keep me company." Then she reached out, took my suitcase, grabbed my hand, and happily led me toward the small Western-style building behind me. I was offered Ethan's room to stay in. Watching Auntie Lay bustling around, I finally understood what it meant to be hard-pressed to refuse kindness. I had said no several times, but she finally asked me with such sincerity. How could I say no again? Ethan's room was clean and simple. The most eye-catching thing was a huge bookshelf filled with books, models, trophies, and certificates neatly arranged on every shelf. It was exactly in line with his personality. From childhood to college, Ethan was 2 years older than me. We weren't particularly close, but we weren't strangers either. Growing up together and later attending the same university created an unspoken bond between us. He had been recommended to a top domestic university, while I got in through local quotas. That evening, Alex called me over video chat. His voice sounded muffled, distant. Jason told him I'd gone back to the south, so I just nodded, even though he couldn't see me, and murmured, "Yeah." After a long silence, I heard him mutter, almost to himself, "Why didn't you tell me? I would have gone with you." After all these years, I could guess how Alex felt about me. But I refused without hesitation. "No, you should focus on work. Be careful when you're out there. I'll take care of things here and pick you up in 2 days." Before I could say anything else, he hung up. Chapter 14. It rained all night, but the next day the sky unexpectedly cleared. I wanted to visit my grandmother's grave, so I stepped outside and bumped into Ethan, who was covered in dust. A breeze blew by, carrying the scent of soil and lifting the hem of his shirt slightly. Over the years, he had grown from a graceful young man into a handsome one. He looked startled, his eyes full of emotions I couldn't quite understand. "Long time no see," he said softly, his voice as pleasant as I remembered. I smiled at him. "Long time no see." The owner of the room had returned, so naturally, I had no reason to keep staying there. I said goodbye to Auntie Lay, but she frowned thoughtfully. "You're still just a girl. I'm worried about you living alone. How about this? Let Ethan move in with you." I was about to protest, but Ethan spoke first. "Okay. I'll go back with you to clean up." Under Auntie Lay's eager gaze, I could only nod in agreement. Chapter 15. Although it had been uninhabited for a long time, I made sure someone checked and maintained the house regularly. Except for some dust, it wasn't too bad after cleaning. I sat on the steps outside the house, gazing at the sky washed clean by the rain. Big white clouds floated across the blue expanse, a sight rarely seen in smog-heavy Beijing. Ethan handed me a bottle of water and smiled. "Why did you come back suddenly?" I looked up and returned his smile. "I was tricked back by my mother." He chuckled. "What about you?" There was no doubt that Ethan was good-looking. The warm sunlight sprinkled over him like gold dust. Behind his thin glasses, beautiful peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly, hinting at wildness beneath the gentleness. I looked away, thinking for a moment before choosing the most appropriate word. Healing. Chapter 16. Life in the countryside was slow-paced, and I gradually adapted to being polite and courteous while living alone with Ethan. He was an ideal roommate. Fearing I might get bored, he brought over stacks of extracurricular books for me to read. What's more, he somehow found a puppy. It looked just like the one Grandma used to have. I squatted down and hugged the little dog, and the tears I had held in for so long finally spilled over uncontrollably. Ethan stood silently beside me until I cried enough. Then he bent down and gently rubbed the top of my head. "Did Vivian get wronged?" he asked softly. It was a very familiar sentence, one that stirred up many buried memories. When I was younger, kids in the village often teased me, calling me names like wild child or worse. Every time I hid and cried, Ethan found me. He always asked gently, "Did Vivian get wronged?" Gradually, fewer people bullied me. It wasn't until much later that I found out why. Ethan had once beaten up the boy who threw stones at me in a dead-end alley. It seemed I had always been close to Ethan before I left. Why had we drifted apart later? Chapter 17. Few days later, Jason sent me a short video. In it, Ryan was slumped on the floor holding a bottle of wine, repeatedly calling out my name. Lily stood nearby, biting her lip tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. Below the video were 2 messages. "Vivian, when will you come back? Ryan drank too much and keeps asking to see you now. He's drunk at Yunhai and we can't do anything about him." Yunhai was the old place Ryan mentioned during the group gathering, the top club in Beijing, one of his family businesses. Ryan rarely drank, but social events sometimes forced his hand. Every time he overdid it, I was the one who picked him up, and he always followed me obediently afterward. It was those little things that made me like him for 12 years. "Isn't persistence born from hope?" I replied. "Don't tell me about him anymore." Just after sending the message, Jason called. I hesitated but answered. After all, it wasn't his fault, and I had no reason to take my anger out on him. "Hello, Vivian. Ryan hasn't been doing well these past 2 days." Before he could finish, loud shouting erupted in the background. "Ryan, don't move. Don't grab my phone." Then, seconds later, Ryan's voice came through the receiver beside my ear. Hello, is that Vivian? When are you coming to pick me up? I was in the hospital 2 days ago and you didn't come to see me. I haven't seen you in a long time." The more he spoke, the quieter his voice became, choked in emotion. "Vivian, I miss you." I hung up the phone without thinking. Chapter 18. That night, Lily asked to add me on WeChat, saying she had something to show me. I wasn't interested, but I couldn't bear her persistence. After adding me over 20 times, I gave in. She sent me a picture. On a big hotel bed, her loose black hair spread like a seductive fairy, lying beside Ryan. The caption read, "Sister Vivian, Ryan and I know you like him too. But Ryan only feels family affection and habit toward you. He told me in person that he only loves me. Tonight he was jealous because I talked to other boys, so he went to find you. I hope you don't misunderstand." Looking at her long explanation, I felt nothing but boredom. It seemed letting go of a 12-year relationship really wasn't that hard. I replied calmly, "Oh, I wish you happiness." Chapter 19. It rained for several days. Ethan liked to make tea and sit by the window table, writing and sketching. I lay on the sofa with a book in hand. The puppy curled at my feet. I named him Pudding. Since I had cried in front of Ethan last time, our relationship had improved a lot. Outside, the sound of sparse rain mingled with the rustling of his pen inside. Occasionally, I turned the pages of my book. Somehow, it reminded me of a phrase. The present world is stable, and the years are quiet and good. A sudden knock on the door broke the peaceful silence. Outside, Ethan's father looked anxious. "Ethan, your mother just fainted. Go back and see her." Ethan paused, hesitated briefly, then stood up and ran out. I hurriedly put on my heels. Auntie Lei had always taken good care of us, especially during Grandma's time. She sent homemade food occasionally. Auntie Lei was lying on the bed, looking not too abnormal. Ethan frowned. "Mom, how are you? Do you want to go to the hospital?" She glanced at me behind him. "I didn't intend to tell you yet," she muttered, fumbling under the pillow and handing a piece of paper to Ethan. "I don't have much time left. My biggest wish is to see you get married in my lifetime." On the paper, it stated she had terminal cancer. Ethan's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. He was silent for a long time before mumbling, Maybe it's a misdiagnosis. Let's check again in 2 days. Chapter 20. After that, Ethan grew increasingly silent. Back when we were young, he found me when I was hiding and crying. Now, it was my turn to find him when he was hiding and smoking. When he saw me, he quickly stubbed out his cigarette and waved the smoke away. I sat beside him and stayed quietly in silence. June was nearing its end, and the weather grew hotter. He looked up at the sky and said slowly, "I came back this time because my mom said she was sick. When I got home, she sent me away with a joke. I thought she was lying. I didn't know what to do, so I just remained silent." He hesitated before continuing carefully. "Vivian, I don't want her to regret it. Can you help me?" I nodded quickly. "Just tell me if there's anything I can do." Ethan turned his head and looked directly into my eyes, determination burning in them. "Marry me. I can sign a prenuptial agreement with you. I recently applied for a patent for my research project, and I should have a lot of money by then. When we divorce, if you want, I can give it all to you. Of course, yours is still yours. You can add any conditions you want to the agreement." Marriage wasn't trivial, and I didn't want to agree immediately, but Auntie Lay had always been so kind to me. "Can I think about it?" "Yes." He forced a bitter smile. "I'm sorry, Vivian. I'm embarrassed to ask you this." Chapter 21. That night, as I lay in bed struggling with whether to accept or not, Jason called again. "Vivian, come back soon. Alex and Ryan are fighting." I sighed helplessly. "Fighting again?" Jason's voice deepened. "If only it were that simple. Alex poached 3 clients from Ryan in a row, offering absurdly low profit points. It's hurting the enemy by 1,000 and yourself by 800. Both sides are in chaos now. Vivian, do you know that before you came back, the 2 of them had the best relationship? Later, you came back, and they gradually began to drift apart because of you. It turned out Alex's feelings for me were obvious to others, but I didn't know how to respond, not after what he did to me when we were younger. He had known both Ryan and me for years, watching our entanglement closely. If he and I had any feelings beyond friendship, it would be a thorn in his heart. Chapter 22. One was a terminally ill elder, and the other was a childhood friend obsessed with me. It didn't seem hard to decide. I took the initiative to contact Alex for the first time. I could hear how happy he was the moment he answered the phone. "I should have picked you up 2 days ago, but something happened." I interrupted gently. "I heard everything. Alex, don't go on. I hope you and Ryan are all well. Your relationship shouldn't be strained because of me. Also, I called to tell you, I'm getting married." He paused, then asked hoarsely, "With whom?" "A brother who grew up here with me. He's also my senior in college. He's outstanding and treats me well. Thinking about the time I spent alone with Ethan, it would be nice if we could live together respectfully after marriage." The next day, Ethan had already prepared breakfast. "I'll go back with you to see Auntie later," he said, gently placing an omelette in my bowl. I continued discussing wedding plans with him. As Ethan was about to put another bite in his mouth, the omelette fell onto the table. Chapter 23. Before I was 14, my parents were strangers who only appeared during festivals. Afterward, they became family members who only asked if I had enough money. Did they love me? They probably did, but the 14-year emotional gap made them unsure how to get close to me. Every time I saw my mother interact warmly with my younger brother, 5 years my junior, I comforted myself like this. When my mother learned about my upcoming marriage over the phone, she only asked about the man's background and agreed immediately. Ryan and I were once a recognized couple in the upper-class circle, but now he was making a mess over his girlfriend, even defying his parents. For a while, I became the laughingstock. Now, there was a young talent with good conditions stepping in. I assumed they were eager for me to marry soon. The wedding was scheduled for more than a month later. I originally wanted to keep it simple, but Ethan disagreed. "Although I can't give you a luxurious wedding, I still want you to have what other brides have, even if our marriage is contractual." Chapter 24. After returning from Ethan's house, a blue Bugatti pulled up at the small building's entrance. Alex stepped out, his sharp features shadowed with fatigue. Even his chin bore a short stubble. He looked at Ethan beside me and asked flatly, "Is he the one you want to marry?" He nodded. Alex's face darkened slightly. "Vivian, let's talk." Ethan gave us space. Alex watched his retreating figure and asked in a lonely voice, "Why him?" I tilted my head, thinking, maybe he just showed up at the right time. "Why him?" he repeated, voice rising. "Because Ethan needs this marriage so his mother won't regret anything, and I need it to fulfill him and cut off your thoughts." Alex suddenly became emotional. He grabbed my shoulders, brown eyes filled with pain. "I don't believe you'd fall for someone else so quickly. If it's because Ryan hurt you, you could have chosen me. You know I like you." I looked at him calmly. "Alex, we were never suitable. Our ending was doomed. What about him? Is he suitable?" I was slightly startled. Scenes of my time with Ethan flashed in my mind. Being with him was plain but stable. Ethan didn't talk much, but every morning when I woke up, breakfast was already on the table. He wore an apron that clashed with his usual demeanor and smiled, telling me to wash my hands and eat. Pudding wagged his tail around him. One person and one dog formed the lasting warmth of everyday life. I replied firmly, "Yes. He's very suitable." The wedding was just days away. The venue was modest, but Ethan had gone out of his way to make it beautiful. White lilies, soft string lights, and a small orchestra that played gentle music under the evening sky. I stood by the window of my room, watching the last golden light fade behind the hills. Auntie Lay had been discharged from the hospital just in time to attend. Her face was pale, but her smile was full of warmth. Ethan had kept his word. Every detail was thoughtful, every gesture sincere. He never pushed for more than I was willing to give. Our relationship remained peaceful, quiet, like the soft hum of rain against the window at night. It wasn't fireworks or passion, but it was peace. And after years of chasing one man's shadow, peace felt like a miracle. I hadn't heard from Ryan since the message where he asked me not to contact him anymore. Lily had stopped trying to provoke me after I ignored her messages. As for Alex, he sent one final text after our conversation outside Ethan's house. "I hope you find what I couldn't give you." On the eve of the wedding, Jason showed up uninvited. He looked tired, older than I remembered. "Ryan's gone," he said quietly. "He sold part of his company's shares and disappeared. No one knows where he is." There was no gloating in his voice, no bitterness, just sadness. I nodded, not surprised. Maybe Ryan needed to run far enough to finally see what he'd thrown away. Or maybe he'd never understand. Either way, it wasn't my burden to carry anymore. Chapter 25. The day of the wedding arrived. I wore a simple white dress, nothing extravagant. Pudding sat beside me, wearing a tiny bow tie, looking confused but dignified. Ethan waited at the end of the aisle, his eyes locked on mine. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. As we exchanged vows, I realized something. I wasn't marrying Ethan to escape heartbreak, or to fulfill someone else's dying wish. I was marrying him because he gave me space to heal. Because he stayed when others ran. Because love doesn't always come with thunderclaps and destiny. Sometimes it comes quietly like snowfall in the night. Soft, unnoticed, until you wake up and realize everything has changed. Later that night, as guests danced and laughed, Ethan pulled me aside. He handed me a letter. "This came for you this morning," he said. It was left at the gate. I opened it carefully. The handwriting was familiar. "Dear Vivian, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't even know if you'll care. But I had to write it. I thought I loved Lily. I thought she reminded me of you, and that was enough. But she isn't you. She doesn't have your patience, your strength, your silence when words aren't needed. She doesn't look at me the way you used to, with trust, with hope. I chased something that only looked like you, and lost the real thing forever. Sorry. I've been saying that word so much lately. To everyone but you. Till now. If there's any part of you that still remembers us, I hope you're happy. Truly. Even if it's not with me. Ryan. I folded the letter and slipped it into my pocket. Ethan watched me silently, not asking questions. I leaned into his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you. Not just for the marriage. Not just for your mother. For showing me that love can be quiet. That healing can be kind. That sometimes the right person doesn't arrive with fanfare, but with steady hands and a warm heart." And as the stars lit up the sky above us, I knew I had found mine.